Have you noticed that after turning 60, your body doesn't seem to respond the way it used to? You might be eating the same meals you've always enjoyed, yet gaining weight feels easier than before. A few extra pounds may appear, especially around the belly, even though your daily habits haven't changed very much. At the same time, your energy levels might feel different. Activities that once felt effortless may now leave you feeling a little more tired than expected. So what is really going on inside the body? Is your metabolism actually slowing down with age? And the answer might surprise you. If you're over 60 and you've noticed these changes, you're definitely not alone. Research suggests that many adults begin to notice subtle metabolic shifts as they move through their 60s and beyond. These changes usually develop gradually rather than suddenly, which is why many people only recognize them when looking back over time. Your metabolism isn't suddenly failing. In many cases, your body is simply adapting to a new stage of life. And once we understand these changes, they often become much easier to manage. As people move into their 60s, many begin to notice small changes in how their bodies respond to everyday routines. These changes don't usually happen overnight. Instead, they develop gradually, often so slowly that they're easy to overlook at first. One of the most common signs is weight gain without major changes in diet. You might still be eating the same meals you've enjoyed for years, yet maintaining your weight suddenly becomes more difficult than it used to be. Another change many people notice is an increase in belly fat. Even individuals who have never struggled with abdominal weight before may start to see subtle shifts in body shape over time. Some adults also find that they feel tired more often than they did in earlier years. Everyday activities may require a bit more effort, and energy levels may fluctuate more throughout the day. In addition, recovery after physical activity can take longer. Whether it's a walk, gardening, or light exercise, the body may simply need more time to feel refreshed afterward. Many people assume these changes are simply the result of lifestyle differences, perhaps being a little less active than before. And lifestyle certainly plays a role. But biology also plays an important part. Natural changes inside the body can influence how energy is used and stored over time. Research shows that aging affects several biological systems related to metabolism. But weight gain is only one part of the story. Have you noticed any of these changes after 60? If you're watching this and you're over 60, I'm curious. Have you noticed changes in your metabolism or energy levels? You can simply type yes in the comments. Many viewers find it reassuring to realize others are experiencing similar changes. Before we talk about why metabolism may slow down after the age of 60, it's helpful to first understand what metabolism actually is. In simple terms, metabolism is the set of processes your body uses to convert food into energy. Every time you eat, your body breaks down nutrients from food, such as carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and transforms them into energy that your cells can use. This energy is essential for nearly every function in your body. For example, your body uses energy for breathing. Even something as automatic as breathing requires muscles and organs to work continuously. Your body also uses energy for circulation. Your heart pumps blood every second of the day, delivering oxygen and nutrients to cells throughout your body. Energy is also required for digestion. After you eat a meal, your body begins breaking down food, absorbing nutrients, and transporting them through the bloodstream so they can be used by different tissues. Another important function supported by metabolism is cell repair and maintenance. Your body is constantly replacing old cells, repairing minor damage, and maintaining the health of tissues throughout the body. And of course, metabolism supports movement. Walking, climbing stairs, gardening, exercising, or even standing up from a chair all require energy produced by your body. There is also a term that is often used when discussing metabolism. It's called basal metabolic rate, or BMR. Your BMR refers to the amount of energy your body uses while you are at rest. Even when you are sitting quietly, watching television, or sleeping, your body is still burning calories to support vital functions such as breathing, circulation, and cell repair. In fact, research suggests that a large portion of the calories your body uses each day comes from these basic processes that happen automatically inside the body. But after the age of 60, several natural changes begin to influence how this system works. Understanding how metabolism works can make these changes much easier to understand. Metabolism doesn't stop working as we age, but it may begin responding differently to the choices we make each day. After understanding what metabolism is, the next question becomes clear. Why does metabolism tend to slow down after the age of 60? The answer is not caused by a single factor. Instead, several natural changes inside the body begin to influence how energy is used and burned. These changes happen gradually over time, and they are a normal part of the aging process. Let's look at a few of the most important reasons. The first factor is muscle loss. As people age, muscle mass naturally begins to decline. This process can start as early as midlife, but it often becomes more noticeable later in life. Muscle tissue is very important for metabolism because muscle burns more calories than fat. Even when your body is resting, muscle tissue requires energy to maintain itself. This means the more muscle your body has, the more calories it naturally burns throughout the day. However, when muscle mass slowly decreases over time, the body may burn fewer calories during daily activities and even while resting. In simple terms, less muscle can lead to a slower metabolic rate. Research in aging and physiology supports this idea. Studies suggest that gradual muscle loss may influence how efficiently the body uses energy later in life. The second factor involves hormonal changes. Hormones play an important role in regulating many functions inside the body, including metabolism. Several hormones that influence metabolism gradually decline with age. These include estrogen, testosterone, and growth hormone. These hormones help regulate processes such as muscle maintenance, fat storage, and how the body uses energy. As hormone levels slowly change over time, the body may begin to process energy differently than it did in earlier decades. These hormonal shifts are completely natural, but they can influence how the body maintains muscle and stores fat. The third factor is reduced daily movement. Many people become slightly less active as they grow older. For some, retirement changes daily routines. For others, physical discomfort or lifestyle changes may reduce how much they move throughout the day. Even small reductions in daily movement can influence how many calories the body burns. For example, walking less, sitting for longer periods, or doing fewer physically demanding activities can gradually reduce overall energy expenditure. Over time, these small differences can contribute to changes in metabolism. But it's important to remember something encouraging. Metabolism is not the only thing that changes with age. The human body remains remarkably adaptable, even later in life. Small lifestyle choices, such as staying active and maintaining balanced habits, can still support the body's ability to use energy effectively. The body is incredibly adaptable, even later in life. Small daily habits may become more important with age, but they can still make a meaningful difference. By the way, Many viewers over 60 say they started noticing these changes gradually. If you've experienced something similar, feel free to share your experience in the comments. Your story may help someone else feel less alone. As people move into their 60s and beyond, many begin to notice small changes in how their bodies store fat. One of the most common things people notice is an increase in abdominal fat. Even people who have maintained a stable weight for many years may start to see fat slowly appearing around the waist. At the same time, many people notice their body composition begins to shift. Clothes may fit a little differently. The body shape may change slightly. And this can happen even when body weight has not changed very much. For many people, this feels confusing. They may still be eating similar foods, following similar routines, yet their body seems to respond differently than it did years ago. So what is happening inside the body? One important factor is the gradual loss of muscle mass. As we age, muscle slowly decreases over time. Muscle tissue plays an important role in how the body uses energy. When muscle mass becomes lower, the body may burn fewer calories throughout the day. At the same time, the percentage of body fat may increase. This means the body may carry slightly more fat and slightly less muscle than it did in earlier decades. Another factor involves hormonal changes. Hormones help regulate how and where the body stores fat. As hormone levels shift with age, fat distribution may change as well. For many adults, this means the body may store more fat around the abdominal area. It is important to remember something. These changes do not happen overnight. Instead, they develop slowly over many years. Because the process is gradual, many people only notice it when looking back over time. Daily habits such as activity levels, nutrition, and sleep patterns can influence these changes. But natural biological aging also plays a role. Understanding these changes can help people see them in a more balanced way. Rather than viewing them as sudden problems, it can be helpful to recognize that the body is simply adapting over time. Your body is not suddenly working against you. It is simply adjusting to the biology of aging. As people move into their 60s and beyond, another change many begin to notice is a shift in energy levels. Some individuals feel tired more easily than they once did. Tasks that used to feel simple, like walking for a longer distance, working in the garden, or completing daily chores, may now require a little more effort. Others notice something slightly different. After physical activity, their bodies may take longer to recover. A busy day, a long walk, or even light exercise may leave the body feeling tired for a longer period of time than before. These experiences are very common, and in many cases, they are linked to natural biological changes that happen gradually with age. One important factor involves cellular repair. Your body is constantly repairing itself. Every day, millions of cells are renewed to maintain healthy tissues and organs. When people are younger, this process tends to happen quickly. Cells regenerate efficiently, and the body can recover faster after physical or mental effort. However, as we age, cellular repair naturally slows down. This means the body may need a little more time to restore energy and recover after activity. Another factor that can influence energy levels is sleep. Many adults notice that sleep patterns change over time. Sleep may become lighter, and some people may wake up more often during the night. Because sleep plays a key role in restoring both the body and the brain, changes in sleep quality can affect how energetic we feel during the day. Sleep also influences metabolism, which means it can affect how the body manages energy. A third factor involves muscle recovery. After physical activity, muscles need time to repair and rebuild. As we age, This recovery process can take longer. This does not mean that movement should be avoided. In fact, regular activity often helps support strength and overall vitality. But it does mean the body may respond differently than it did decades earlier. The good news is that metabolism is not completely out of your control. Small daily habits, such as staying active, maintaining balanced nutrition, and getting enough rest, can still make a meaningful difference in supporting energy levels over time. Feeling more tired sometimes does not mean the body is becoming weaker. Often, it simply means the body needs a little more time to recover. By this point, you might be wondering something important. If metabolism naturally changes with age, is there anything people can do to support their bodies? The answer is yes. While aging is a natural process, certain daily habits can help support how the body uses energy. The goal is not extreme changes. Instead, small and consistent habits often make the biggest difference over time. The first habit is staying physically active. Movement plays an important role in supporting metabolism. Activities such as walking, light strength training, and gentle stretching can help keep muscles active and maintain mobility. Muscle tissue requires energy to function, so when muscles are used regularly, the body continues to burn energy more efficiently. Even simple daily movement, like walking around the neighborhood, doing light household activities, or stretching in the morning, can help support overall metabolic health. The second habit involves balanced nutrition. The foods people eat provide the building blocks the body needs to maintain muscle, energy, and overall health. Including protein-rich foods in meals can help support muscle maintenance. Foods high in fiber, such as vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, can support digestion and help regulate energy levels. Choosing whole foods whenever possible can also help provide essential nutrients that support the body's natural processes. Balanced nutrition is not about strict diets. Instead, it's about giving the body the nutrients it needs to function well. The third habit is consistency. Small habits practiced regularly often have a greater impact than large changes that are difficult to maintain. A short daily walk, balanced meals, and regular movement can gradually support strength, energy, and overall well-being. Healthy aging is not about perfection. It's about simple habits that are practiced consistently over time. Healthy aging is rarely about dramatic change. Most of the time, it's about small habits repeated consistently. If you enjoy learning about healthy aging and simple habits that support long-term well-being, consider subscribing to the channel. Each week we explore new insights about metabolism, strength, and healthy aging after 60. And if you'd like to continue learning, you may enjoy the next video on the screen. As we've explored in this video, the body naturally goes through several changes after the age of 60. One of those changes is that metabolism may gradually slow down. This happens for a variety of natural reasons, including changes in muscle mass, hormone levels, and daily activity patterns. At the same time, body composition may shift. Many people notice that the body stores fat a little differently than before, especially around the abdominal area. Energy patterns may also feel different. Some individuals experience fatigue more easily, or notice that their bodies need a little more time to recover after physical activity. These changes are a normal part of aging, but they do not mean that people lose control over their health or well-being. In fact, healthy habits can still make a meaningful difference, even later in life. Small daily choices, such as staying physically active, eating balanced meals, and allowing the body enough time for rest and recovery, can help support strength, energy, and overall well-being. Healthy aging is not about trying to stop time. Instead, it's about understanding how the body changes and learning how to support it in the best way possible. Over time, simple habits practiced consistently can help people maintain an active and fulfilling lifestyle. Aging does not mean losing control of your health. It simply means the body works a little differently, and thoughtful daily choices can help support it. If you enjoy learning about healthy aging and simple lifestyle habits that support long-term well-being, feel free to explore more videos on this channel. This video is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional medical advice. If you have specific health concerns or symptoms, please consult a qualified healthcare professional.